What's going on, thought criminals? Welcome to Frontlines. I am your host, Drew Hernandez. We're continuing our coverage, Davos 2023 Watch, here on the Frontlines exclusive all week. We've been watching these people, everything they're saying on their panels, unveiling all of their plans, everything that they say. And, we've been asking people to tune in and, ask their families to watch or skeptics to watch for the sole purpose of proving that not only these people exist, but they do have plans for world domination. They do have global plans, okay, to control your life, your family, your bank account, remove your sovereignty as a country. And they just believe they know better for you. Klaus Schwab opened up the entire conference stating, what does it mean to master the future? Okay, these people are real. And the purpose of these transmissions are to communicate to the public just exactly who they are and what their plans are. So I want to invite every single one of you that are watching. You've breached the matrix. Copy the links, Rumble, Getter Chat, or on Real America's Voice. Blast them everywhere. This information is imperative to get out. Alrighty, well, let's get straight into this, guys. Davos Watch 2023. So last night, or during the day, in the morning, in Davos, Director of FBI, Christopher Wray, says the level of collaboration between the private sector and the government, and he says especially the FBI, has made significant strides.
And I think the sophistication of the private sector is improving, and particularly important, the level of collaboration between the private sector and the government, especially the FBI, has, I think, made significant strides. Pretty much every technology we could talk about today, we see both great opportunity but great dangers in the wrong hands.
In the wrong hands, the FBI says, because the FBI determines who are the wrong hands. The FBI will determine what technology can go into what they determine are the right hands. And we could pretty much all agree that we know what that means in their eyes. It means it will be kind of biased. I don't know, maybe kind of left-leaning. Obviously not pro-America, America first-leaning. It will be what they determine in order to get their political goals and motivations pushed for their own narratives here on American soil. And by the way, what is the director of the FBI of the United States of America doing on foreign soil, talking about what he determines are bad hands to embrace certain technologies? But they say it out in the open. He says it out in the open that the level of collaboration between the private sector and the government, especially the FBI, is making significant strides. I mean, this confirms everything we've already known because of the Twitter files, with the FBI influencing a private company, Twitter, with their policy in order to drive public opinion, the FBI psyops on the American people. But what's interesting here is this, is you got the FBI director on foreign soil with just casually talking about how they infiltrate private companies, okay? How they infiltrate private companies in order to get what they want. I mean, why do you think they're doing that? You think they're just infiltrating these private companies? Oh, because we want to have great relationships. No, it's been proven in Twitter. These people are tyrants, okay? They run psyops because they want to control the minds of people. And they sit there all casually out in the open now because they in their minds, they believe they're gods. In their minds, they believe they're the elite and you're the peasant. So they just sit there and casually say it out in the open. That's why we're doing this show. That's why we dedicated an entire week to expose what they're saying. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not some secret, shadowy thing taking place now in 2023. Dude is out in the open, sitting there on stage, casually talking about how your FBI, okay, how the FBI is just casually infiltrating the private sector, and God knows what they're doing. But I'll give you a hint. Twitter files, we know what they did with Twitter. That's what's taking place here. I mean, to make matters worse, here's another clip. European Commission VP Vera, I believe this is Jourova, at the WEF, saying illegal hate speech which you will soon have also in the US. This is what they're saying out in the open because that is what is in their hearts for you as an American. Take a look at this clip.
Well, we need the people who understand the language and the case law in the country. Because what qualifies as hate speech, as illegal hate speech, which you will have soon also in the US, I think that we have a strong reason why we have this in the criminal law. We need the platforms to simply work with the language and to identify such cases. The AI would be too dangerous.
They will have hate speech laws. They will have that soon. You filthy American. You filthy American. You will have the hate speech laws very soon. Your speech will be determined hate and it will be illegal. You disgusting American. Illegal hate speech. You're going to have that very soon. This is what they're saying. Out on American, not American soil, foreign soil, making comments on policy for you. For you. Okay, anytime anyone came out and said, you know, these global elites, they get together, okay, they get into rural areas in Switzerland and they pontificate and they talk about, you know, policy that's going to influence different countries. That's what they're doing out in the open, saying, America, you're going to have illegal hate speech laws coming very soon for every single one of you guys. These are their plans unveiled. They're anti-1A. This is why they hate the First Amendment. This is why they hate the free press. This is why they hate the free practice of religion. This is why they hate you as an American and they censor everybody. Big tech is just the future of censorship. If these people could have it their way, man, they would throw you into jail for saying something offensive. Because it's about controlling the narrative to control your mind. This is what is being talked about in Davos 2023. Here's another, I mean, just, you got to listen to these people, man. Here's the CEO of Pfizer. Okay, he openly states, okay, during the pandemic, when it all happened, everyone was freaking out, losing their minds. He openly states, the CEO of Pfizer states that it was constantly in our way of selling vaccines to governments. The one thing that constantly got in their way was that the vaccines got politicized because people wondered if they worked or not.
The first year of the pandemic, we produced 3 billion doses of a vaccine that we never had manufactured before. But if you ask me what was the biggest challenge, I think it was the political challenge. I think the vaccines, the COVID, and the ability to deliver or not vaccines, and then after we delivered, the ability to use them or not, became severely politicized and became a political statement if you are wearing a mask or not. Became a political statement if you believe we will have a vaccine or not. And after we had the vaccine, it became a political statement if you believe it works or not. And then we went to more extremes, if you believe that COVID existed or not. All of these were constantly on our way. And you know, I'm a businessman, I'm a scientist, I'm not a politician. And the same is the same for all of my peers, right? The head of Moderna, the head of J&J, the head of AstraZeneca, that they were trying to do the same. And that we found it the most challenging of all the tasks. And that continued after the vaccine. As you know, governments, everybody was scared at that time.
There it is. What was the most challenging thing for all of Big Pharma and the vaccine pushers? It was you. It was you. It was you. It was me. Because you questioned whether they were good for you or not. And what does he say that was? Oh, you politicized it. So it got in the way of our money for a moment. But eventually we were able to get that through. Eventually we were able to overcome people questioning whether this is good for their health or not. And he openly says it. CEO of Pfizer. We never mass distributed this thing ever before in our existence in human history, but we just made 3 billion anyway, and we just pumped them out to the public across the entire world and made possibly billions, trillions of dollars at the expense of your health. And by the way, the FBI stepped in Big tech started to control the narrative on social media so that you can't go and question anything. Why? Because Moderna and Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson need to make money off of your potential death with the jabs. So you're dealing with, again, Davos out in the open. Here's the former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair calling for a digital database to monitor who is vaccinated and who is not for a future pandemic.
You need to know who's been vaccinated and who hasn't been. Some of the vaccines that will come on down the line will be multiple. There'll be multiple shots. So you've got to have, for reasons to do with the healthcare more generally, but certainly for a pandemic or for vaccines, you've got to have a proper digital infrastructure. And many countries don't have that. In fact, most countries don't have that.
You have to have a digital infrastructure so you can monitor who's vaccinated and who is not. And what are governments like New Zealand doing, by the way? What's China doing, right? They have digital infrastructures to impose tyranny on their people. They give you a green light if you're clean. They give you a yellow light if they think that you might be infected. You just got to take some precautions. We'll tell you what you can or cannot do. And if China gives you that red light, zero COVID policy, you get locked down in your house, welded in your apartment. And if it happens to burn, you burn down to the ground with it because they hate humans. I love the Chinese people, okay? I love the Chinese. I hate what's being done to them. Xi Jinping hates Chinese people. I love Chinese people. Xi Jinping hates his own people. That's why he imposes tyranny upon them, because he's a homicidal maniac that is obsessed with power and control. And so are these people that want to follow his example, right? What does Klaus Schwab say openly to the media? China is the model. China is the attractive model. We should all be like China. CCP. This is exactly who these people are. Here's another one. UN Secretary General openly, okay? UN Secretary General, unelected individual, commands politicians around the world to shape public opinion themselves. Take a look.
But politicians need to understand, and sometimes we are faced with this kind of challenges. It is better to take today decisions that will eventually be not popular, but it will be essential to be able to shape the public opinion itself.
So basically, impose your will upon humanity and manipulate them until they accept it. That is the message, loud and clear, coming from Davos 2023 out of Switzerland. Not only do these people talk about economic world domination, manipulating societies through AI and technology, and just completely subverting your will based off of what they believe is good for you. Climate change, etc. They're huge on part of what the Great Reset is, and Klaus Schwab specifically talks about this in his writings. Anyone could read this in his books or on the World Economic Forum website. Part of what the World Economic Forum is interested in is not just economic revamping, but social revamping. So, of course, they're going to have that at Davos 2023 as well. Here's the World Economic Forum LGBTQI+ panel discussing subverting countries' conservative constitutional values with their gay agenda.
Is it a case that you have very conservative courts where the change needs to come from politicians, first of all, or from the people?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that it's not one solution for each, but I think what we have seen is that, you know, all over the world, you can challenge the constitutional basis. We have international law, for example, and that's been one of the great progressions over time, is we've seen LGBTQI rights actually emerge in bodies of international law. So we've been able to use these, and where countries have signed on to their commitments, be able to actually challenge repressive laws that are on the books within constitutional courts or Supreme Court.
And what are suppressive laws to these people? Anything they say is suppressive. Oh, you're suppressing me because you called me gay. Well, aren't you gay? Yeah, but you said it mean and you hurt my feelings. Okay, well, like, I don't know what else to tell you at this point. because they're just a bunch of people that are obsessed with themselves and being at the center of all the attention in the entire world. Literal homosexual global subversion. Literally openly talking about subverting countries' constitutions with their homo agenda. I mean, that's what you're seeing right here. It's out in the open, which is depopulation anyways. Everybody knows it. So to take things even further, okay? Not only do they go after constitutions of countries, okay, they go after the laws. And does it start to make familiar now how all of this is kind of starting to come together? They go after the media and they go after Hollywood and the arts as well. Here's the World Economic Forum LGBTQI+ panel discussing subverting culture with their agenda through media, entertainment, and claim we've worked really closely with Hollywood on this. And also, they talk about subverting cultures through mainstream media and by making sure corporations prop up, these are their words, and center their products around the gays, just shoving it down your mouth.
It's about making sure that people are seen in the mainstream media, in day-to-day life. And I think that's another opportunity where we have the corporate world to play a really important role. It's in the, as one of our colleagues said in another forum that we were in the other day, the hearts and minds part of this. And that is to make LGBT people, the community, visible when you are talking about your product, visible in your imagery. We can make sure that your products are centered towards it.
Normalizing LGBTQ folks, including us in all stories. So that's the other piece that I think is really important. And we've worked really closely with Hollywood on this. We are all connected in the LGBTQ community. So we would help you find the right people on the ground to advise you in that culture. It's really important that you're acting within the culture that you're in and you're speaking within the culture that you are. But, and I think it's what you mentioned about getting ahead of it instead of coming behind it, and understanding the cultural landscape and playing out from a PR standpoint what's could happen or not happen, but you have to do it.
And what did Disney admit last year? We have a not-so-secret queer gay agenda going after your children, going after your values, because you can't have your values because you're a bigot. If you disagree with us, you just got to shove all our gay stuff down your throat. You got to. Otherwise, you're homophobic. Otherwise, you're transphobic. If you don't accept anything that we are literally subverting your constitution with, literally says it, we're working with Hollywood to subvert, okay? That is what they're doing. They're propagating the culture with all their LGBTQ perversion, okay? Going after children, going after people. They say it out in the open, World Economic Forum, because that is what the agenda clearly is. Well, this goes deep, you guys, okay? Aside from the social stuff, the technology, okay? These people want to use technology and harness technology to rule the world. That's open. They do it with big tech. They do it with social media. Take a look at what they've done with Apple and the devices we all have. The World Economic Forum is predicting humans will soon embrace implanted brain technology so they can decode complex thought. And they also say the more that healthy people adopt neurotechnology, the more data they can gather on you. Oh, wow, amazing.
I am a futurist. I'm not a perfect predictor of the future, but I'll give you my 1-year, 5-year tenure. So focusing in the world of wearable technology as opposed to implanted technology. And I do believe that within many of our lifetimes, we'll see healthy people using implanted brain technology as well. Then we can decode complex thought. But as healthy people in a widespread way start to have their brainwave data collected, the insights that we can gain through pattern recognition will exponentially increase and pretty quickly. So 5 years from now, what we can actually decode will be massively increased from where we are today, simply because we'll have a much greater data set from which we can actually create those correlations. Again, that's frightening but promising. So you have recognition memory signals that are preconscious and subconscious, and this is part of why it's been used, for example, by governments to interrogate criminals. Do you recognize this potential co-conspirator? Do you recognize this murder weapon? Those preconscious signals, like what we call the P300 wave or the N400 wave, these are before you even consciously process information, so you could prime it with a number and then see if a person recognizes it. And you can do it without them realizing that that's what you're doing.
So will all of our passwords be cracked first by this or quantum computing? Hard to tell. All right.
I think we're moving past passwords pretty quickly. And
I saw a hand go up.
It's actually really good for passwords. Neural signatures are unique. We can use it as a biometric for passwords.
Yes, it's gonna go so well, don't you think, guys? Don't you think, thought criminals? Let's just let the New World Order jack into our brains through neural technology so they could read our brain waves, download all the information from who we are, build a profile on us, because they're definitely not going to control it, are they? They're definitely going to be really free and open with their source codes. They're definitely not going to do what they're doing with Twitter, right? No, they're not. It's going to be totally awesome and liberal and amazing. I mean, okay, if that's not enough for you, the World Economic Forum has unveiled the 5-minute city utopia, which they claim will be 100% solar and wind powered, occupied by millions, completed by 2045.
So this video is a video of the principle of the line, which is really the revolution in urban design that NEOM is pioneering. And we can talk a little bit more about that as we go through the rest of the panel in the session.
So when I'm looking at this, it's a grid infrastructure.
Yeah, so basically the way it works is it's 170 kilometers long, 200 meters wide, 500 meters high. Wow. The height is from the sea level, so as you go inwards and the topography actually goes up, then the height of the actual building structure reduces until you get to the mountains where it actually, you no longer have a mirror line. The idea is about what we call zero gravity urbanism, which is not necessarily having to be linked and anchored to a ground. How can we think of cities that go vertical and not only horizontal? This has many benefits. It's 5 minutes walk from all of your needs. Each module is 800 meters wide, and each module will take 80,000 people on average. Obviously, some are going to be more densely populated than others. And when you do it this way, you're only 5 minutes walk away from your school, your hospital, supermarket. The other thing is that the catchment area becomes a lot bigger. The catchment area for businesses becomes an 80,000 catchment area within a 5-minute walk, which, as you can understand, instead of opening many pharmacies or many stores, that one store will service a much bigger catchment area than it typically does in other cities that have, 15, 20,000 people in even dense cities, catchment areas like New York and London. The idea as well is to reduce the footprint. So imagine 9 million people living on 34 square kilometers. And if you compare that to other cities, it's almost the 2% of the size of London, yet taking the same amount of population at end state. The first module is going to finish in 2027, end of 2027. And as you can imagine, this is a generational project. So it will continue to go on until 2045 when the whole project is complete. We think of this as not a start and an end. This is a city that is being built. So it's being designed forever. Yep. And hence the glass walls to give it its timeless appeal, as well as a integration with nature in a way like you would never see before.
Yeah, imagine what these people did in 2020 with the lockdowns and then the forced inoculations in 2021 in that thing, okay? A smart city that's definitely not going to be controlled by the elites. That's definitely not going to be jacked into some kind of AI system that's going to control your entire livelihood. It's definitely going to be open and free, and nobody's going to have any problems, and there'll be no tyranny, guys. It'll be totally solar and wind powered, and nothing's going to go wrong. It's going to be the utopia that we say you want. We have to resist this because nobody's voting for this. Nobody wants this. Nobody is saying that we want the World Economic Forum. Nobody is saying that we want their tyranny. Nobody is saying that we want their opinion, especially if we're Americans. It's America first. It's God first. And that is how we're going to go down. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the Frontlines. I'll see you guys on the next one.